Are you tired of spending your time and money chasing strategy after strategy only to discover what worked 10, 5, or even 2 years ago is not working now? Things shift fast in the online space, and if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind. It's time for something different. Welcome to the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast, where every single episode will be jam-packed with proven, profitable strategies, behind-the-scenes secrets, and what's working now resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. And now, your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist, and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast. I'm your host, Patty Farmer, and I am looking forward to sharing another amazing industry expert with you today. And I'm really looking forward to diving into this topic, and I think that you will too. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Teacher, guide, simplifier of the complex. Since 1999, Karon Thackston has been devoted to delivering high-value training that empowers online entrepreneurs to entice, engage, and earn through blogging, copywriting, passive income, and more. Need to master the art of snappy, short tidbits of copy for social media, headlines, or calls to action? Or tackle the multifaceted task of Amazon A-plus listings? Ready to free your finances and time by adding a bit of passive income? From blogging $2 to online biz, you can count on Karon to break it down into easily understood steps. I'm really excited to have you here today, Karon. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Hi, Patty. Thanks so much for the invitation. It's going to be fun.
Yes, that's what I think. I love it. Conversation, fun, and you get to learn something that you can actually apply to your business. So I really love that. So let's just dive right in. I think the thing that I want people to really understand, if you're here and listening, you probably have heard people talk about copywriting before. You know, it's not a new topic, but there's a lot of different types of copy, right? So from learning how to write descriptions to learning how to write sales pages, to learning how to write a blog. But today we're going to talk about short copy. And I think it's really important. So let's just start with that. So Karon, can you share what is the difference between short copy and other types of copy?
Short copy focuses on the little teeny tiny segments of copy that actually propel people further into your copywriting process. So think about opening your inbox and what do you see? You see a bunch of subject lines and from fields. You don't see the entire email in front of you. If the subject line doesn't nail it right up front, that email's going in the trash, or they're going to click, if they're in Gmail, they're going to click the unsubscribe button from that or the spam button from that, and they never even see the inside copy of your email. So the short copy there is the subject line. Titles for blog posts or books or things of that nature. Headlines for copy. Even though it may be an entire page of copy, everybody knows that people don't read every single word. They're skimming. So what's driving them forward through a longer page of copy is the short copy, the headlines, the subheads, the bullet points that are in that copy. All of these types of things, social media posts that are quick little snippets, PPC ads, Google AdWords and whatnot, where you have limited character counts. You can't possibly make a sale, make a conversion for anything within a teeny tiny amount of time. Nobody's going to convert and purchase what you're selling in your email if they're just reading a subject line. So short copy is what pushes people to the next step and gradually helps them along to your call to action.
I love that. When you're creating a website, so I have to tell you, for somebody who's in marketing, right, a lot of times people say to me, my website isn't converting. And one of the things that I learned that I thought was absolutely fascinating is just kind of what you said about how people skim. So if people are looking at your website and they're scrolling down, we all know in social media, it's what are you doing to stop the scroll, right?
Yep.
So on a website, you have to know that where you think you may be really clever in your copy, the bottom line is if the headlines, like you're saying, or the short copy isn't good, they're not getting to that anyway. So they're just kind of skimming down, reading the headlines. Does it make sense, right? Is it congruent, right? When it's going from one headline to the other, and when you get their attention, they're really going to want to go back and read, in between the headlines, so to speak, and go deeper. So I think, like you said, nailing the short copy is probably one of the most important things. And you're right. Titles, blog titles, all of those things are important. And I have to tell you, Karon, I see this all the time in my magazine. In the magazine, people will write for the magazine and they will send me, their articles, and we'll look at the articles and we're choosing, which articles are we going to put on the cover of the magazine, right? And we want nice, sexy, compelling titles on the cover of the magazine that are going to compel people to open the magazine, right? And sometimes people will write a title for their article. It's got like 3 lines, right? Or this big, long, it's crazy how somebody can write an amazing article, but their title not so compelling. And so we always have to go back to them and kind of help and guide them a little bit on how to come up with a compelling title, and to let the authors know that, we have more authors than there is space on the cover, and the ones with the best titles make it to the cover of the magazine. And I'm sure it's that way for other people who have magazines too. So nailing that short copy isn't just that. It's also could make the difference between making a cover, if you have a good description, when somebody is having people on virtual summits, or when somebody is speaking and they're listing all their authors. Believe me when I tell you, the ones with the best copy, compelling, right there, they want people to attend, right? Those are going to be the ones at the top of the list. So really nailing short copy, I think, is really important.
Right. And it is a struggle for a lot of people. But if you take a look at the list of things that I said just a minute ago, a lot of these are what you might refer to as the PowerPoints within a longer piece of copy. The headlines, the bullet points, the subheads, the calls to action, all of the places that really make a difference, so that folks will understand what you're saying quickly. And like you said, Patty, slow down and maybe actually read a little bit of the in-between copy that they would normally just skim right past.
Absolutely. So let's kind of like look at like a different point of view of the ways it could really help you. So I know that on my podcast, as well as in my magazine, we really serve business owners, entrepreneurs, and speakers. So let's kind of look at it from that point of view. So let's just go with speakers first. So as a speaker, that I know that when I get asked to speak, whether it is virtually, whether it is in person, whether they're putting up something on a website about me speaking, whether they want me to send them something about what my topic's going to be, they want it short and sweet. Here's the title. What is the description you're going to be talking about? What are 3 to 5 value add takeaways our audience is going to receive by having you come and speak? Not rambling on, and being clear and concise and compelling in this short copy, I believe can make the difference in getting booked, where you appear on the page, like I just said, and really nailing that. So what are some of the things you think, so let's kind of get into that value right now. What are some of the things that a speaker needs to be thinking about when they're writing short copy so it can be more successful for them when they're doing the things I just said?
Most short copy is going to do better if it focuses on an end result or an end user. When you have people submit articles for your magazine, when event promoters and coordinators ask speakers to submit their topic ideas for open call, they're looking past the speaker And they actually are more interested in how will this impact our magazine readers? How will this benefit the show attendees? How will event participants walk away from this session after reading this article or what have you with something they're excited about and glad they came to the event for? So focusing not so much on yourself, which I know, I'm a speaker too, and I've done countless events over the years, and we're all proud of our accomplishments and our businesses that we've worked so hard to create. But when it comes down to those topic ideas, I would encourage you to focus more on an outcome for the attendees or some end result that they can walk away with.
I think this comes back to like the golden rule, like not just in writing copy, but the golden rule in general. And I know as a speaker, and you're a speaker too, it isn't about us, it's about them.
Right.
So you need to realize that who you are and your accomplishments only validate to them that they've made the right choice once they made the choice. When they're in the decision making, though, it's really all about them. Right? They want to know, what is it that I'm going to receive? If I'm going to write a check to go stay at an event, I'm going to be having to pay for food and maybe airfare, maybe they can drive, maybe a hotel room. Like there's costs involved.
Right.
Where they're going to make that decision is the value that they're going to get. They're not going to go, oh, it's because this, this, and this. Because I always tell people all the time, people don't book speakers. They book industry experts. Right. And so you need to make sure that you're talking about the result they're going to get. So I really love that you say that, because I have seen some that were just really crazy. And I'm sure you have too. But I think that really, honestly, being really clear there lets you know what is it that I'm going to get. And I know that that's really important to me. And let's just take it a little bit further. I mean, you're on my podcast right now. What about podcasts? Like if somebody wants to be a podcast guest, I know I have a form. And I ask them in their forum if they want to be on my podcast. And I want to know, what's the topic you want to talk about? What's our conversation going to be about? And what's going to be the takeaways for my audience? So when somebody is really compelling and they're able to take whatever their topic is, maybe put a different twist on it a little bit. Like, if somebody's a financial planner or somebody's whatever somebody is, you're not the only person who's ever done that, right? But what's your story? Like, what's your twist? What's the value that you're going to bring that somebody else may have already been on my show, or whatever the show is that you're pitching? They may have already had somebody that does what you do. It's not about the what you do. It's about the why you do it, the how, what are you bringing the value that's going to be the impact to them. So getting that down in short copy, I have to tell you, when I look and somebody is able to tell me, here's, what I would love to talk about, here's the topic, and here's what the conversation could be around. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like my audience would love that. I think that really makes sense. And we can use you as a perfect example for that, right? I mean, it's not that I don't know other copywriters, but I have to tell you, when I had that conversation with you, when you were talking about short copy, it's like, wow, that's a whole different conversation, right? And so I love that that's what we're sharing right now, is we're not talking about how to create this big, long sales page and, what you should do there. I mean, that's another conversation. This conversation is really about short copy. So I love that. So when somebody's wanting to pitch being on a podcast, getting clear on this and knowing how to do this well could be the difference between more podcast hosts saying yes, right, to having you on their podcast. So tell me a little bit about that. Is there something different they should be doing? Is there a little tidbit? I really love, little secrets, little tidbits there. What you would tell them that if they were going to be pitching, right? Because sometimes the person you're pitching, and sometimes you're not at all, right? You don't know them at all. So what are some of the little secrets you would say that if somebody is going to pitch to be on a podcast, they need to be super, super clear on making sure they add?
First of all, you want to go and look at other podcast episodes and the titles that were used for those, not necessarily to choose your topic, but to choose the format of your title and to make it in line with what this particular podcast host might go for. So if 9 out of 10 podcast titles start with a number, 10 top 10 ways to do whatever, 3 best tips for blah, 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 something like that, then obviously that podcast host is really into titles that begin with numbers that are very quantifiable. If you can pick up trends like that, even if you can see from the past podcast titles where they've done something along the lines of real life case studies, or, how this particular person went from rags to riches, went from a $100 business investment to selling $1 million company, things along that lines, then they're looking for those types of success stories, and you can format your title and your topic in that particular way. Compelling language and different types of bullet points are going to help a lot. Instead of simply stating facts, I would encourage you to use some sort of compelling language that will really perk up someone's ears. Break out your thesaurus or go to thesaurus.com. And instead of using something along the lines of 3 best ways to do whatever it may be, you can say 3 compelling ways, 3 predominant ways, 3 fail-proof ways. Anything like that that's going to bring a bit more attention to your topic will probably catch the attention of the podcast host or the magazine editor or the speaker in the event. And like we've been talking about, it's all in service to the listener, to the reader, to the event attendee. Whatever we're doing with titles for any of those things needs to focus on who's going to receive the information and what they're going to walk away with.
I think that really makes a lot of sense. And one of the things while we're talking about podcasts specifically is people need to understand that there are people who have a podcast similar to mine in the sense that I serve entrepreneurs, business owners, speakers, right? But there are people who have a podcast, say they're a financial advisor and they have a podcast and their audience is all about, people that they're looking for, potential clients or are all in at least that finance topic, right? So you have to know that if you're pitching them, they're looking for people to come on and give a different point of view about that. And you may actually even do the same thing they do. So what they want to know is, what could you come on my show and share differently, a different hook, a different type of way to look at something through a different lens, right? A different perspective of something is really good. I mean, my show's Marketing, Media, Money. I bring marketing people on all the time because I love having a conversation of a different perspective. Maybe they have a different strategy that the people in my audience who I serve hadn't thought of that, right? It's not like I am the end all be all of every marketing person in the world, right? So I love to work with people who also do what I do, and together we can have a conversation that I believe serves the audience. So you have to know that if you're talking to a podcast host who has a very specific audience because they're in a very specific field, you better be able to share enough copy with them about what is the hook or the twist you're going to share, so they have something different that they're going to go, oh, you may serve my audience, but you're serving them in a completely different way and they haven't heard this before. And they are looking for that. Just like journalists are looking for you to give a different way to say something. I mean, you know how when you're listening to a story and the journalist keeps saying the same thing over and over and over when there's a hurricane or something, you're thinking, man, they're saying the same thing. It's because they don't have anything else to say. If you can come in and give somebody some short copy and say, hey, this is what I can talk about, like they want that. So getting good at short copy, in my opinion, is probably one of the most critical things you can do for your business.
I agree. There's too much writing on these little snippets of text that it's not a static piece of copy. It's interactive in whatever you find it in, whether it's on an opt-in page or a landing page or an upsell page, or whether it's in your speaker one sheet and you're using these little segments of short copy in there. They're just the little power buttons. When somebody reaches that and it's well written, it pushes them forward. So it allows motion and momentum to happen within the copy so that somebody actually gets to where you want them to be to find the end result.
Would you say that on landing page copy, right, which I think is really important, would you say it could literally make the difference that you want them to read that copy? And you don't get to put that much copy on a landing page, right? It's literally 3 to 5 bullet points and maybe a short paragraph, right? That's it. And you better be compelling enough that they're going to raise their hand and say, you know what? I need that. And then they push that button, right? Because whether it's that or even opting into something, if they don't see themselves in those words that you're talking to them, right, they're not going to raise their hand. And more importantly, they're not going to push that button. So whether they're purchasing something from you, signing up for something, even just getting something you're giving away for free, either way, I think it is very, very important. You have to be able to compel them to do it, because I think more than any other time, people get so much in their inbox that for them to give you their email address, you had better be able to say something compelling.
Oh, absolutely. And the whole page on a landing page that's used for opt-ins or webinar registrations or something like that, the whole thing is constructed of little segments of short copy. And
it's like a journey, right? It's like a little journey. You're taking them here. You're taking them here, right? And then ultimately to get them to make a purchasing decision, right?
Right. Or to sign up for the opt-in and hand over their email address or whatever it is that you're trying to get them to interact with on that particular page. But if the headline doesn't capture them with a what's in it for me kind of statement so that they understand clearly what they're opting in for, or if it's a landing page that's for a short offer or something like that, what they're going to purchase, that has to connect directly to the little short paragraph and or the 3 to 5 bullet points that are compelling. And that when I read a page like that, I need to be able to see myself in it, which means understanding your customer persona before you begin to create these segments of short copy and mix and match them in different ways. So when I get to a page like that, maybe it tells me about particular process that I can use, 5 specific steps to doing this or uncovering this or mastering this particular financial process or understanding, how bonds can actually add a lot of income, even though they're low risk or something to that effect. And then with those bullets in that paragraph, follow through with that headline. That headline has captured their attention of the reader and has pushed them forward. Okay, you hooked me. Now I want to know more quickly because I'm impatient and I'm not going to stick around too long. So you're looking at a couple of bullets that give end result, benefit, end result, benefit. What am I going to be able to do? What will I accomplish? How will my life be better after I've gotten this freebie or purchased this product? And then the call to action, that little short copy segment that is so important to close that transaction needs to remind them of the biggest benefit that is available to them and anything else that's pertinent. Is there a way for me to ask questions later? Do I have some way to contact you? Is there something else involved in this that will make me say, yep, okay, that did it. I'm going to give you my email address because I've decided that I want this. So all of those bits and pieces work together on landing pages, from the headline to the bullets to the call to action, even the button copy on the form itself is a short copy segment. You've got maybe 2 to 5 words on a button, depending on what size it is. Do you want to say, subscribe me? Do you want to say, give me more traffic? Do you want to say, increase my retirement fund? All of these different things that you can test them, test dozens of them to see which one pulls better. I'm a real data geek. I love to go through the statistics and the data after we've run split tests, and I can absolutely get lost in Google Analytics for hours watching the click flow and everything else that's in there, letting me know where people are coming from and going to and why they're doing that. So all of these little things work together to pop off signals quickly. Yes, you caught my attention with the headline. Yes, all of those bullet points apply to me, and I want all of those benefits they're mentioning. And the call to action gets them, and the button copy goes click. Yep, there we go. I'm in.
I really like that you're saying that too, though, because I was going to talk to you about that. But I think what's on the button, does that matter so much to me? I mean, really, honestly, we are way past join now, learn more, subscribe. I mean, the reality really is, I think what you said a little bit earlier is effective for buttons too, but you don't have very many words to be able to say what's the result or the benefit, right? Like what is the result? Trying to say that. So telling somebody to subscribe to something, that is no benefit. That's a benefit to you. It's not really a benefit to them. So you have to really be able to shake that up and be able to really utilize your words and really be talking about what the result's going to be. So are there some little tidbits or a value that you can give right here about what should they be thinking? Like if they only have, how many words can you put on a button? 3, maybe 5 if it's a big long button, right?
Yep.
So what should they be thinking for buttons?
Again, I like to go for a benefit statement, if at all possible, a really short one. If we're talking about driving traffic through your copy, through your marketing process with short copy segments. So on an opt-in page for that, give me more traffic, help me drive traffic, teach me. Well, now I'm drawing a blank because I'm trying to come up with these off the top of my head.
Sorry. But I really do think, like just subscribe doesn't work. Learn more isn't really, those are so old. People don't really, it doesn't work. You have to do with what is effective now. And I don't think those are as effective, right? So really thinking about that. And again, I use thesaurus for that as well and really think about it. I also like to, I see a lot of things. Look at social media, look at the things that you see that people send you, look at their buttons and think about, that really caught my eye. That was super. I know we probably said compelling more times in this podcast, but really it is compelling. That is really what you are trying to do. And how does that apply to social media? I think about it, we're talking about stopping the scroll. Like I always talk about that. You want to be able to stop the scroll when people are scrolling. And a lot of that is visual, right? So, you stop the scroll, they see this graphic that you use. And it's amazing to me how much time people will spend in their graphic. You got them to stop the scroll. They looked at the graphic. And then when you look at the social media post, it really doesn't kind of line up, right? It's like, you got me to stop. So now you have my attention. Now's not the time to drop the ball. You got me to stop, right? Now, what are you going to say really that's going to make me take the next step, whatever that is you want me to do? Sometimes I think it's really interesting when people invite you to do stuff like join my Facebook group, right? What is it that you're going to say to somebody when you're inviting them to join a Facebook group? I get asked that all the time, right? And so when you're thinking about it, what is the thing that you want to say? You got them to stop. You have their attention for a few seconds, and that's it. And you better say something good. So when people are talking about social media now, when we're talking about that, what are a few little tidbits you can give about copy for that?
Well, one of the things to remember is that what we want to say is one thing. What they want to hear may be something entirely different. And it could be the same topic. It's just a matter of how you phrase something. So when you have a good idea of your social following and I mean, if you haven't had conversations on your Facebook page, on your Instagram feed, on your Twitter feed and what have you, and you're not really familiar with your customer persona, it may be time to do a little bit of community building or things along that line, having some of those conversations on social media with people, finding out what they're interested in, what they're looking for. Yes, obviously they're following you on social media, so they want to know more about you, but the information that you're providing to them on a daily basis still has to resonate with them and meet their needs. With the social posts, I like to do interactive types of short copy, asking a question.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, posing a problem. Maybe it's a problem that you've had personally. Maybe it's a problem that somebody told you about and you were helping them, but quickly expressing that information in order to generate some feedback, some communication from the other side. So often, especially with major feeds that have dozens of posts a day, it just scrolls by in real time and nobody gets 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 15 seconds to see these things before they're no longer in the live feed and they're further down on the page. So the quicker you can get people to interact with social posts, the better off you're going to be and the more response you're going to see from that, which is just going to help your posts rise to the top when it comes to search algorithms and placement for any social media site. Those posts that are interacted with the most always continue to show longer and higher up.
I love that. And I'm hoping that what the audience is seeing or hearing right now and putting together is the correlation really between nailing this short copy and really your bottom line, because there's a direct correlation there. And, kind of going on what you're saying right there, I think that it isn't just in the posts that you do. Because like one of the things that I see all the time is I'll be in somebody else's Facebook group, right? And they'll have a promo thread of some type and they'll ask a question, right? And maybe the question, it will be something as simple as asking you to share your link to maybe your Instagram, right? Or something like that. I can't tell you how much I laugh when I see that people will just drop their link in there and they don't tell us like literally anything. I'm like, so to me, like that's a missed opportunity, right?
Yep.
If you're going to share a link to anything and you're in somebody else's Facebook group, they don't know what to do. They know maybe the person who's the host. That's why they join that Facebook group. But if they're asking a question, I have seen it sometimes where there'll be like 150 comments of everybody just dropping in there. And then when I'm looking through, because, I'm in marketing, so I like to look through, there'll be people that'll say, here's my Instagram and this is what I post. I post blah, blah, blah. Or people will say, oh, here's my podcast when somebody will ask about this. This is what you can expect to hear. We delve deep into this problem, right? I am so much more apt to subscribe to something, follow somebody or whatever. If you tell me what is it, it isn't even a direct result that's going to happen in my business, but you're giving me enough short copy information that enables me to be able to make a decision. I don't want to have to click on a link, go look at your page or your Instagram to see if it's for me. I want you to tell me right there so I can make a decision.
Exactly. Yep. I agree 100%. I've seen lots of posts like that too in different Facebook groups, and it is absolutely a wasted opportunity.
And I think people just don't realize it. They, somebody says, oh, put your Instagram here or whatever the case may be. And so they're like, oh, that's my instruction. That's what I'm going to do. And they don't think about how could I make this better? Like, how could I stand out? So if there's 150 people doing just that and 20 people in there actually tell us, because the bottom line is it doesn't help your algorithm if all these people, follow your Instagram page, but because it doesn't have anything to do with us, we never engage with you, right? So it's so much better to just connect to the people that have the things that you want. So I really think that short copy isn't just what people think it is. Really, honestly, they should be using it in everything they do, and they really need to get good at it. So I think that's really important. And I know, I have taken your course, right? And so I know that you really kind of go deep into, I want to say it was like a dozen or 14 strategies that you do there. Could you just share just one? Let's just share one and talk about one strategy that you share with people in your course on how they can get better at this.
Right. And there are about 14 different core strategies, but then you can mix and match them, combine them, use them in different ways so that you really have an unlimited number of options by the time you do everything that can be done with the 14 different strategies. So it gives you quite a bit of ideas so that you can use those in all the different things that you do. One of my very favorite is asking questions. And the reason questions work so well in headlines or social posts or blog post titles or bullet points or wherever you use them is because there is a physiological reaction that happens inside every human being's brain when a question is asked. And our brain engages and immediately the wheels start to spin automatically as our minds attempt to answer the question. It's just what human beings do. So you've engaged your audience just by asking a question, because now their minds are going, wonder what the answer to this is. Even if they aren't consciously thinking that, that's what's happening in the background. So,
you know what I love about that? And I laugh about this all the time. So people love to give their opinion, right? So one of the things that I have found to be true, and I actually teach this to my clients too, is if you ask somebody a question and you say something like, okay, so here's an example. So one time I posted on my Facebook business page, if you could be coached by one of the coaches on Shark Tank, which one would it be and why? So here's was my A/B testing, right? I didn't get very much engagement on that. And the reason I didn't get very much engagement was because people read the question and they liked the question, but they were like, oh, I'll come back to this because they were too busy to tell me why, right? Because they saw the why word, right? I posted it a different way on a different day and said, which one of the Shark Tank coaches would you, same question. The only thing I did different is I went A, B, C, D and put their names in there. So all they had to do was say A, B, C, D. But here's the part that I think is funny. If you ask somebody a question and then ask them why, in their mind they're thinking, oh, I don't have the time for that. I'll come back to this. They're scrolling, right? But if you just ask them a question and they just have to give a short answer or it's multiple choice, here's what happens. 8 out of 10 times after they put the letter, they did tell me why.
Yep.
Because they love to give their opinion. Then they said, oh, I would do, Mark Cuban and here's why. And then they would just tell me because they can't just say, oh, Mark Cuban, right? Or whichever. So then they would tell you. So I think it's how you phrase the copy, right? So I kind of stay away from why. Why seems like a lengthy answer and people don't tend to, at least on social media, want to do that, right? I mean, it's like, kind of people like short answers too, right? So it's not just short copy, they want short answers as well. So make it easy for them. They will just naturally kind of expound on their answer, right? Because we just like to give our opinion. So I just think that that is really funny. And that's something I have noticed over and over and over again. So I always make it nice and simple, fill in the blank, whatever the case may be. People will share what they're going to share, right?
Yep. And there's all kinds of questions. You can ask who questions and what questions and when questions and how questions and all sorts of different questions. So, you don't have to do the ones where people have to answer a why, but it's funny how our brains and our personalities work, speaking stereotypically. If someone takes something back to a physical brick and mortar store to return it, when you get to the customer service agent, the first thing they ask is usually, is there anything wrong with it? And I sit there and laugh while I'm standing in line at Kohl's or Macy's or wherever behind all these other people. And I don't think any of them ever say no or say, it's fine, something like that. they have to explain. No, it's just that I bought this for my 13-year-old daughter and I thought she was going to like green, but she didn't really like green. Well, actually she likes green, but she didn't like this shade of green. And then 15 minutes later, and then the next person goes up, is there anything wrong with it? Or they might say, is it damaged or broken or something like that? It's not damaged. I was going to use this skillet for a special dinner because my grandmother was coming over. I'm thinking it takes
because they want to share the stories.
They do
actually want to share the story, but the question, I know for a fact that this is true because every time I go somewhere with my husband and somebody asks him that question, he launches into the story. And I always like stop him and I'll touch him. I'm like, honey, they really don't care about the story. They have to ask that question.
That's right.
They have to ask it. They're required. It's their job to ask the question.
They just need to know if it's going to go in the damaged bin or if it's going back in stock.
Right. So it's really funny too. So I think that's really interesting. So here's my question. What would your advice be to like a brand new entrepreneur or a business owner, somebody who really, they haven't been really doing very good at this, or maybe they're brand new and they're just getting started. What would their first step really be? Like what things should they be looking for? Like I know you talked earlier about the thesaurus and stuff, but really honestly, what is something that before they even like start, what should they do first?
To understand where the short copy impacts whatever type of copywriting they're doing. Go through and look at the landing page that isn't converting. Go through and look at the web page that isn't converting. Take another look at the email that absolutely flopped and check out the headline or whatever the opening is, the email subject line, the headline, the blog post title, whatever it is, that's the first impression that people will get from that particular marketing campaign. Most things are not just a specific one-shot deal. Those social posts that we're talking about, yes, they're there to build community and whatnot, but for what marketers are using them for often is as part of a campaign. So the social post is going to feed into maybe a landing page for a freebie. And then in the back end, after they've opted in for the freebie, maybe they have an opt-in or a sales page for an upsell. And then the email coming after the upsell, you're going to have the subject line that you need to pay attention to. And perhaps that mentions a blog post. And so they're going to go over to your blog to read the post about whatever the topic is. So they all intermingle. But if you take a look at these power buttons, these power points within the copy, check those first and see where they're falling short. Is it the email subject line? Is that the reason that the opens were so low? If they opened it, were the clicks very low? Maybe it's the offer or whatever else you said, but it could be that all the copy is there and just this big block, this giant sea of words that's difficult to read. And people aren't able to quickly pull out where the benefits to them are. And that, you talked about one place to start. Before you ever write a word of any type of copy, you would want to have a complete list of the benefits and the end results for the user of whatever it is you're writing about, because those are going to be plugged in so many times to the different short copy segments. You would use those in headlines and subheads and email subject lines. You would use those in bullet points. You would put them in calls to action. You would have them in podcast titles or on your speaker one sheet when you talk about topics. The benefits to whatever it is you're writing about are the key to everything else that deals with short copy.
I love that. So Karon, thank you so much for being here with me today. I mean, this has just been a great segment. How can people connect with you?
You can jump over to marketingwords.com/blog. That's where our blog is, and you'll find a lot of useful information there, along with links to social media accounts. If you are more into social than you are to blogging, you'll be able to find us that way too.
And you came bearing gifts, which I really love. We'll have a link to the gifts as well as to where you can connect with Karon in the show notes. So we are going to invite you to go there. But while you're waiting for that, Karon, will you share a little bit about what this gift is that you are giving to the audience?
Yes, it's called 5 Tiny Words That Add Mystique to Your Titles, Tweets, Headlines, and Other Short Copy. And it goes through 5 words, as it says in the title, that are critical to use for one of my very favorite short copy tactics. And it explains everything from beginning to end on what these 5 words are, how to use them, why to use them, what difference they will make in the various types of short copy, and more.
That's wonderful because, I love it when somebody can give me something super actionable, 5 words. Now that's wonderful, right? So that's kind of like simple steps to really be taking. And I have to tell you, we really kind of went deep into this short copy. I love it. I feel like the audience should really right now have lots of notes, and they should be really thinking about how can they take that next step. Really, honestly, that gift was like icing on the cake for sure. So thank you so much, Karon, for being here with me today. I really enjoyed having you so much, and really for sharing your brilliance so generously with us.
Oh, it's been fun. I knew it would be. When we chatted previously, we had a lot of fun on the phone. And if you can make learning fun and profitable at the same time, it's a win-win.
Absolutely. So for the audience, thank you so much for spending time with me and my guests today. We really enjoyed having you. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. And make sure to join us on Facebook in the Marketing, Media, and Money Magazine podcast and events Facebook group, where you can get up close and personal with our guests. So thank you so much. Make it a phenomenal day. If it's not phenomenal already, change it.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at www.marketingmediamoney.com. I promise your business will thank you.